Good morning, everyone. I have viewed your voice threads and your peer comments in Blackboard and have given you feedback. Many of you, I gave some feedback actually through comments, narrative or verbal, on the voice thread, and then I tried to give you your academic feedback on with your grade in Blackboard with the assignment link that you posted in the voice thread. So grateful that you were able to put those pieces together to put your voice thread up and then remember to post your voice thread link in Blackboard. That was a key step, so it certainly makes my job a whole lot easier being able to give you feedback where you're supposed to get feedback. So I appreciate you navigating that process. You're going to have a similar process in week 5, which we'll talk further down the road, but anticipate having to do that 2-step process to complete your voice thread. One of the great things about this assignment for me is I can hear you talk about something that is meaningful for you. So many of you picked topics that you were very passionate about. I was interested to see that there were many of you that chose the scenario about the impaired professional colleague or the impaired nurse. I've done this assignment a few times, and somehow groups tend to gravitate to specific ones. And that one for you all was one that seemed to resonate with many of you. It was all of the scenarios were really well done. You guys really got into the meat of the concepts. Your classmate Erin, I think, wins the award for the most comments on her voice thread. So kudos to Erin. You attracted lots of attention. If anyone is interested in a highly entertaining voice thread, please check out, I think it was Michael. Yes, it was Michael. Michael's voice thread, he took the time to give me some stick figures, to walk me through his scenario. Appreciate the creative efforts. Remember, when you're doing a voice thread or a voice over PowerPoint or any kind of presentation that you're communicating with an audience, you need to do more than present general information to someone in a flat slide. You need to add aesthetic elements, so pictures, graphs, tables, things that connect what you're talking about with a visual representation. Now, you all wisely avoided cartoons or the emojis, things that are cartoon figures. And sometimes those can be okay if they're used in humor, but from a professional standpoint, you all were wise to avoid those. When I say that you need to add pictures or tables or charts or graphs, those are content things that connect with what you're talking about to a relevant visual representation. Using varying size font, organizing it in a meaningful way, avoiding lots and lots of narrative. You don't want to present so much information on a slide that your audience is reading the slide instead of listening to you. You also want to avoid putting lots of information on a slide because you will tend to read what's on the slide. And you never want to read to someone what they can see visually. So doing a presentation that has a handful of meaningful words, kind of to guide your audience of this is what this person's talking about and this is what's coming up next. But not putting everything out there so that you or the audience can read that. So that good mix of adding some aesthetic elements, minimizing the narrative, creating slides that aren't cluttered, that are aesthetic, avoiding really harsh background colors like the neon yellows and neon greens or dark reds. Those are all good ways to approach your presentation style. With the voice thread, I want to remind you that this is not another method to upload a voice over PowerPoint. VoiceThread is designed to present a PowerPoint section with your comments on each slide. If you load a voice over PowerPoint, it runs like a small movie, and that's really hard to pause and make comments in. And sometimes it can be really hard to follow because when you upload it, sometimes the narrative doesn't really follow the slides as well. So you want to put in your PowerPoint slides. So if you have 5 PowerPoint slides, you're going to load them into VoiceThread, and then you're going to put individual comments on each of those slides. And that will allow your viewer to move through your slides in a kind of a methodical way and provide comments on the individual sections that you've covered in your presentation. So if you have another VoiceThread, be thoughtful about that process. I'm looking to see if I have any other notes. I think that was about it. This week, your work your assignment is to complete your leadership interview. And I'm going to define a leader for you as a nurse leader who completes someone's annual evaluation. They could have a small department, a large department, as long as they're participating in the annual evaluation process of a colleague. We're gonna allow that to be a nurse leader, but they need to be the person that is actually completing an employee evaluation. That's how you'll know that this is the level of leadership you need. And the reason that caveat is there is because the questions are pretty detailed and they're specific to a leader. So if you're not doing your interview on someone that has an engaged leadership position, it's going to be very hard to do your leadership interview. I've designed the interview to be really straightforward. I do not want you to write a paper. It is this instruction sheet, and you have a worksheet. And folks, it literally is a worksheet. It's a word table. You'll drop into the first box and type. Move through this. You want to use complete sentences. You want to be thorough in answering the question. But the work of this assignment is sitting down with a leader that you know or someone has connected you to and really talking to them about their experience as a leader. That's the real work. This is your way of saying, Dr. Hudgens, I did what you asked me to do, and here's my evidence, and I can grade this because I won't be there watching you do your interview. Although if I could figure out how to do that, I would so do that. The interview really does kind of drive you through the perspectives of the leader. And I want to help remind you that if you're asking your leader a question and they're not answering it in a way that actually addresses the question, you're going to need to circle back and rephrase the question or ask a more clarifying question. One of the ones that typically folks struggle with is the question of what is the greatest ethical challenge that your leader faces currently. Be sure they're talking about an ethical problem. Sometimes they'll talk about decision-making processes, or sometimes they get it tangled up with legal issues. Really look at what is the actual ethical issue, not just a decision-making process, not just a problem dealing with processes or people, but the ethical issues. And every area of nursing has an ethical issue. So if they struggle with that, circle back and say, okay, well, this is really what I'm going for. Excuse me. I think that's it. Know that in this assignment, there's going to be one area that you're going to look at a leadership theorist that aligns with your leader's approach. And you can use your textbook. You can use online resources. Just go in and gather do your leadership interview, and then really sit still and think about, okay, what's their style of leadership? What do they will first ask your leader. They may be able to say, well, this is what I use to guide my practice. I'd be very impressed if they knew that. I wouldn't say that that's a common understanding. I think that's more of an academic thing. But I do want you to line up, these are their leadership behaviors, and this is the theory or the theorist and the theory that supports those types of leadership behaviors. Again, you can use your textbook, you can use online resources, but that section does require a reference that you're citing. Forgive me, I have been fighting a cold for weeks. Okay, I think that is it. Once you're done with this worksheet, you're going to type it up, you're going to submit it into Blackboard. That's it for this week. Begin to start looking at your the role of a nurse leader in quality healthcare. Begin to think about your professional practice area and a specific quality issue that is currently impacting your work area. If you're not sure that you're on the right bunny trail as far as, is this a quality issue or what do I do with this? Send me an email and say, this is what I'm thinking, and I will help clarify, get you in the right direction. The stepping off point of being very sure that you're first dealing with a real quality issue that is current in your area, that is not meeting some sort of organizational benchmark. If you get tangled up in that step, this project, part 1 and part 2, will be very, very difficult to do. You'll actually have to just redo it because everything hinges on what's your quality issue, what are the benchmarks and how are you measuring it, and then what innovative solution are you going to come up with to solve that issue that is not currently in practice. So I realize this is week 3 and I'm getting ahead of us, but I do want you to begin to think about that quality project because it's got some teeth to it. And it is a two-part exercise. So you've got to get part one done well so that part two is just a presentation. Okay, I think that is everything I have for you. Let me know how you are. If you have questions or concerns, if you're giving feedback and you're like, no, I did this, or but I thought I put it here. Anything that you're not sure about, it is quite possible that in the sea of voice threads that I can miss things, or in discussion boards, there are an awful lot of moving parts on my end, as I appreciate that there are on your end. If you feel like something has been missed or misunderstood, don't hesitate to contact me. Send me an email or say, hey, can we talk? And we'll set up a time to chat on the phone. My job here is to give you good feedback to guide your learning process, and hopefully address any concerns you have, as quickly as we can to keep you on track. Know that I'm here. I realize that you're in the virtual world, and that can feel like you're just banging it out and getting it done. But my hope is this course is going to slow you down a little bit and really make you think, because one of the things that is very different as an associate degree nurse and a bachelor's nurse is that leap into leadership. And again, even if you don't ever want to be in a formal leadership on an organizational chart, this course matters because it's going to guide your leadership behaviors informally or formally. So I want you to really slow down and really be methodical about the process in the course. Let me know how you are. I hope you guys have a good week. It is rainy and dreary. I'm in Travelers Rest, Greenville, so things are not fabulous here. The puppies are in their crates because they won't talk to me because their paws got wet this morning. So I'm going to be trying to make up to them. I hope whatever is going on in your world that you are well. I'll look forward to seeing your leadership interviews next week. Take care.